Hello, my good friends. Welcome once again to Kardec Radio, and it's time for Spiritism, a closer look. As you know, every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, we are here. I'm your host, Luiz Lima, and tonight we are going to take a closer look at calmness. So we are going to call tonight's program Practicing Calmness in Difficult Times. Very, very interesting. And I think I found just a person to do that for us. I think I found somebody who can help us and understand. She's been an expert on the subject because of the work she does within Spiritism. And here she is, Sheyne Martin. Sheyne, how are you?
Hi, Luis. Thank you so much for having me tonight. It's a pleasure and an honor to be with you and with the Kardec Radio listeners and viewers.
Okay, well, thank you for accepting the invitation. So, Sheyne, difficult times, huh? Are
Yes.
we in difficult times?
In a certain way, yes. We are going through this, as we know in Spiritism, right? The planetary transition. We have this transition from a world of trials and expiations to a world of regeneration, as we find in the gospel according to Spiritism. And we have the sequential evolution and progress of the worlds, because progress is a law. So you and I will inevitably have to progress. So when we go from a state of agitations, of tribulations, both in the individual level, but also in the global level, many places on the earth with all types of suffering, from the more visible ones we see in our feeds, the images we receive from near and far, because people suffer close to us and people suffer from when they are far, right? When we talk about the war in Ukraine, well, we can talk about um, difficulties in our neighborhoods. So those are difficult times for us in the world, especially for those who aren't blessed with the knowledge of Spiritism and the other spiritual religions as well, right? That brings us this knowledge that we are more than the physical. So when we focus on the physical, then it's more suffering for us, because when we lose something, when we have some difficulties, and that's when we bring the teachings of Emmanuel and other good spirits to remind us of the importance of practicing when times are good, so that we develop that muscle. And then when tribulations come to our lives, then we can be of service. Because ultimately, if we are agitated, if we are unbalanced, we can't help much. We can help a little bit, we can always help. But when you have a little bit of a more calm, more serene attitude, you can be of service.
So being centered, it becomes almost like a key to have the whole thing take place. It
Definitely.
depends on us. It comes from
Mhm.
within.
Be centered, be mindful. In the question 919 of the Spiritual book, we talk about self-knowledge, right? We talk about a lot of things in Spiritism. The hard part is to apply. And we read the books of Emmanuel, André Luiz, the Spiritual book, Kardec. Sometimes it feels like a repetition because they keep pointing at the same thing, but that's because we're still learning. When we were learning how to write, you had to repeat until you're able to be proficient. So there's the effort of learning how to be calm, and as you repeat, it's like a muscle. You go to the gym to become fitter. If you go one day in 80 years, you're not going to be fit.
Yeah, of course.
But you have to do it every day. And the same with calmness, with being of service.
Now, Shane, I don't know about what you think about, but with the pandemic coming in, it came a couple of years ago, and I think everybody, well, first of all, it changed a lot of things. It required us to be in closer contact with family,
Mhm.
friends, neighbors, whether we like them or not. That's not even the point. But just that requires more calmness than before, because now you know you have to be calm because you're going to be with those people all along all the time. So I think it forced us in a way to pursue calmness in our own ways.
There is so much we could talk about. There's not only you need to be more centered and calm to deal with your own emotions of the unknown, of this brush with mortality, with we all should think a little bit about dying, but most of us are easy to seek avenues to escape the difficulty. So if we're having trouble at home, maybe we're like, oh, let's go to a movie. Let's go. So we always had that excuse to go out and do things so you don't have to look within. But then we were out of precaution and the responsibility of being careful towards ourselves and others. We had to stay a little bit more, still bringing us back to the values, right? The importance of the family, understanding the composition of the family being people we love, but people we have to still learn to love a little bit more and address the mistakes and the emotional contagion. Because in the book, Mechanism of Mediumship, Andrea Luiz says, teaches us about the law of the mental field. It goes in the same lines of Emmanuel in the book Thought and Life, right? Because you send your thoughts out, but if your thoughts are agitated and fearful, you're connecting with like-minded people all around the universe, not just the earth, both realms, but also in the universe. And then you bring that back to you. So in the book, Mechanism of Mediumship, Andrea Luiz says that each creature will assimilate only the influence that it attracts to itself. So if I want to attract peacefulness, calmness, serenity, I have to emanate that. Because I can't be agitated, angry at everybody in my home and at work and expect to be calm.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. Also, the other way around, I think it's true as well. Sometimes we meet people or we know people that are in our perception very, let's say, serene.
Mm-hmm.
So and we tell other people, oh, that person's so serene. I like to be close to that person because he is so serene. She is so serene. He makes me feel good. Okay, there's a second layer in there. That means I have not yet mastered serenity. So I need to be close to those who have or who are much more advanced than I am in that regard. So sometimes you go, oh, that person is so calm and so I want to be close to that person. That's because I have not mastered calmness to the point that that person has.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Or I say, usually people say one of two things. Either they want to be like the person, but sometimes we don't want to do the work to get there because it takes practice.
oh yeah, the effort.
Or they are boring because we are constantly looking for the dopamine hit in the brain. So there are inbuilt systems in us that we can use to achieve more calmness. And so I'll give you a very public example, the Dalai Lama. Everybody loves to be like him. Well, not many of us are willing to do what he did to get there. Of course, he's prepared and he has his reincarnatory experiences, but it's not, you can read his books, but it has to be applied in the daily lives. And then when you're talking about the pandemic, you're confined to your home. That's the test. No matter how many books you read about patience and calmness, we have to apply it to our daily lives.
Yeah, it requires practice.
And that's what the book of Calmness brings to us, because under Emmanuel will bring to us right in the beginning, in the preface of the book, that he says, no matter where we are in the universe, wherever the creature is located, that means there are the creatures somewhere else. We are on the earth. It says the spirit, you and I, incarnated. So technically we're souls because we have the paraspiritual body connected to the physical body. Then he says, in order to build, the spirit needs peace in itself in order to build its own path to other paths of elevation. So when we look at ourselves in this lens of, I'm here learning something, the earth is a school, I'm here to evolve, the laws of progress, and then we look at examples. We need this piece to move forward, because it's the same thing you said. We meet someone who's calm, we want to be around them. So if we are calm, we tend to attract people. We build relationships in the physical realm and in the spiritual realm. Every time we do something good, the spirits that are with us can use us more. The spirits who are with that person who we helped can help, align with us. And then if we are angry and anxious, nobody wants to be around anxious people. And we have to think about too, Luis, that this is a progress. It's like little steps. Each and every day is an opportunity to move a little closer to that state.
Mm-hmm.
We can work really hard and achieve all of these in this lifetime. Of course, it's possible, but is it probable? Because we have many lifetimes to go through and learn so many things, and we don't want to go through this one and reach the other side in an agitated state. As you see in the books of Andrea Luisa, the examples are the mentors of the spiritual missions that comes to help us. They're not all, oh my God, there is something happened to them. They stop, they pray, they meditate, they're calm. Then they, of course, are communicating with the higher spheres to receive the messages. The people who are freaking out, it's us, right? We get a little bit anxious about things. So that's why these books are important, because we read, we have mirror neurons in our brain, we can learn through the books with the examples, so we don't have to do the same mistakes. And there's a chance we've done those mistakes in the past. So you have one more layer there, the multiple lives, the experiences we've had. Then there's the family dynamics, the work dynamics, and there's global dynamics such as the pandemic and wars.
Right. Yeah, it's but I like one saying, which I think is beautiful. It's from fashion designer Donna Karan. She's very famous, and there's one thing she says: it's all about finding the calm in the chaos.
Mm.
So if you find it, no matter what's around you, everything's calm. Once you get to get there. Of course, there's a lot of practicing, and you got to put the effort on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you can see people. We have several examples in humanity, from Chico Xavier in Brazil, Gandhi, Mother Teresa, whatever was around them. It didn't really affect them because internally they had this inner peace, this calmness that they had mastered, and that would be above everything else. So they wouldn't be affected per se the way we are by the surroundings, the news, or, whatever it is.
And that's very important for you to say. And these are folks who, reincarnated like you and I, and the many, almost 8 billion soon to be incarnated, plus the discarnates. They had experiences that led them, to that state, plus the experience in the previous lives. Because our bodies we have this inbuilt system in us. As a neuroscientist, I can tell you, we have this central nervous system. So your spirit's mind is commanding every single thing that happens in your physical body through the paraspiritual body. That's an evolution in two worlds. And I'm going to be linking, if you allow me, some of the things that I say with other books, because I want people to see that is cumulative knowledge. We start with the spirit's book that explains our nature, and then we build with the other one. So these are not things we are saying because we think. We are analyzing, we're reading, we're reasoning with the teachings. And so in the book Evolution to Worlds, Andrea Luis says about the spirit's mind commanding the perispirit that commands the physical body. Throughout the evolution of the spiritual principle, all the way now, we've mastered this autonomic system. So you and I are talking, we're not worrying about our heartbeat, the cells are digesting, we're renewing our bodies, right? Things are happening to us. Then we can train ourselves to be calmer when we meditate, when we take good care of the physical body, when we use breathing techniques to calm ourselves down. Because it's not an instantaneous, we are going to have this little bits of practice every day. And that's what the book Calmness brings to us, because he says, he talks about first thing that we do a lot here at Cardiac Radio, we're talking right now. And every time we're doing these, the mentors always inspire us. It's like, watch what you say, watch how you say it. As a message, speak peacefully, speak with peace. Because they say, well, your voice is full of vibrations. And then even if you put your hand on your throat, you can feel as you talk. Things are going. Not only you're thinking and emanating, but you also, what do you say? Nowadays we type, right? We're not like, we don't have the courage to come, hey, Luiz, this has happened. You said this hurt me. It's more about, I will, da, da, da. So it's still a form of expression with anger. So he says, be careful, be mindful that what you say is your portrait, your sound portrait. So we have thought portraits and sound portraits. So when we speak, we need to infuse our speech with peace. It's hard to do, especially when you go about your day and you're like worrying about how I'm going to do for dinner. I have to go to work. I have to do this, the kids, the school, the work. It's hard to be mindful, stop and do something.
Yeah.
But that's message 3, which he talks about these. The other topic, very important in the book, is service. He talks about when we feel agitated, when we don't think we have enough strength to go on, we still do it. So you're tired, you work so hard, you still do the program. You still go volunteer. You still reach others, because remember those spiritual relationships and the physical relationships. When we are feeling agitated, volunteer, even science has shown the volunteerism, which we know from the law, the last law of charity, for example, that even the law of work is any useful activity. Then when you go out of ourselves, let's say today I'm agitated, I'm not feeling well, I still do something for the other, it removes me from my own, allowing me to help someone else. Still allows you to see things in a different way, because sometimes we fall into this cartoon. I usually tell people here in Richmond, and it's almost like we're walking around the cartoon with the cloud, just rains on us. It's poor me. And he says, no, don't abandon the possibility of work. Reach out, because that will allow you to give up some that you have, some then you can serve others. I mean, there's just so many teachings in this book about serenity. First it talks about speaking, a message. 4 is the crisis moments. I was talking about the service. Even when you see this, when people are in crisis, there's a tornado, a hurricane, a flood, a war, people rushing to help. Because also trauma research shows that is a way for you to heal. Because you're moving your body, because you are in a physical body, you're helping others, you're seeing a purpose. And the message 5 talks about ears. So that's when I talk to someone about someone else. That was the speak peacefully would be stopping that. But that's when I hear, he says, the importance to remember that our ears can be transformed into extinguishers of evil. That is when someone comes to me and, oh, did you hear about so and so? And you can stop that chain. And even reverse it and say, that's another practical, because it's beautiful for me to be talking about calmness without giving you the tips. That's what Emmanuel and Andrea Luiz says. You can be the extinguisher of evil when you don't pass along that information. that first of all, you don't even know if it's the truth, because the truth of that person may not be the truth of the person, the subject of the gossip, right?
Right.
So that's one thing he says, infuse your speech with calmness. Go serve when you are in crisis and look for help too. That's another important part, because we always visualize ourselves as helping.
Yeah.
But we have to be humble to receive when we need. And then when I am on social media, and a lot of people, I'll bring it to the social media because that can be exacerbating our anxieties, preventing us from achieving a more peaceful. Of course, we need the social media diet. That's research already shows that you have to trim that. You have to make a better feed and unfollow stuff. You have to stop yourself from using those venues as much. But then when I pass along a news or a post to others that can incite them to be angry, I'm not extinguishing evil. I am kindling the fire.
Yeah. 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 That's true.
So this is why we do what we do here at Kardec Radio.
And
Because there's enough, I don't like the word evil, but there's enough ignorance, because we've been ignorant at some
yeah.
point in our lives. There's enough ignorance being spread. And that's
Yeah.
why when we are here, we spread the good.
That's true. Yeah. I think the book is fantastic. Every chapter he touches one point, and so when you go through the book and you get the overall picture, at least that happened to me. You want to come back again and start from the first chapter, because now it's going to plug into other things that you've been through as you read the book. So it's one of these books. The more you read, the more you pick up. And you were also talking about André Luiz, and André Luiz talks a lot throughout his work on health and diseases and illness. So he goes very deep at times. And you were also talking about the Dalai Lama, and there's one thing that the Dalai Lama said that goes hand in hand with what André Luiz tells us all the time. So the Dalai Lama said, a calm mind brings inner strength and self-confidence. So that's very important for good health.
Yes.
So it's exactly what André Luiz says, and that's what it is. That lack of calmness will trigger, or might trigger, diseases and illnesses, and it takes us out of center. So we become uncentered, and then, like you said, we can't help.
Yeah, when we do trainings, I work in a large hospital as a researcher, but we still have to go through training. And one of the things we learn is the escalation techniques. Because if you rise to the level of the agitation, when someone is agitated, everybody gets on edge and they start doing things such as getting louder, because it does talk on this message 3 about not screaming, the tone of voice, the volume of the voice, but you lower your voice, you are calmer, you're modeling, so that person, you tend, because of the mirror neurons, and we are cultural people, social people, we tend to mirror what the others are doing, so the emotional contagion can come around. So if you're calmer, you're going to spread that calmness, and if you're agitated, you're going to spread it. So we learn to do that. And the same thing André Luiz talks about in the book Evolution in Two Worlds, and many of these series is exactly what I had written down before we started, is this, where I am today. So let's say we didn't wake up tomorrow, right? Because we have to think about the possibility of not being here tomorrow in the physical
Right,
body.
right.
He talks about a lot about it on this, on the and it's on this parallel with Emmanuel will be message 24. It's called bad mood. It is this ability that we have to control the cells of the physical body through our mind. So if our mind is unbalanced, you are affecting the tissues of the spiritual body that then can manifest in the physical. In that sense, you can always You have your genes, but your genes are not necessarily your destiny. You can modulate it with the good works that you do. And he also talks in another chapter, if people are interested, we have a study of the book Evolution to Worlds at Kardec Radio. Vanessa, Marcos, and I did about a long time ago. He talks about this monoideistic idea. So where I am today, my state of mind is where I'm gonna be if I die right now in the spiritual realm. So do we want to be agitated, find ourselves in turmoil that we don't know what's going on, or we want to practice to be calmer now? So when we discarnate, we find ourselves in a better state of mind to visualize the mentors that come help us. Because otherwise we may find ourselves in a more difficult position in the afterlife, because we are unable to even realize. And you see this on the books of André Luiz, when they go help the folks, I think is Workers of Life Eternal, you can see the different states and how we are received. So not only we want to live better today, so that you can be the co-creator in lesser plane that you are built to be. When I say you, Luiz, I say you, the audience.
Yeah, in the audience.
And us too, of course. We're also children of God, Luiz. We want to be better today, so we don't squander the time. But then what I built today, what I am today, is what you sold back then, multiplied by the grace of God. If you had to make it a mathematical, actually, it's probably an exponential thing. What we did, the good we did, the errors we made, multiplied by the grace of God, bring us today to the situations we are in. So today I know if I build myself to be calmer, then I can, knowing that you have it in you, because it's too hard. No, you have a nervous system just like the Dalai Lama, and you can practice. Maybe not get to his level in this life, but you can build a little bit every day. And then when you discarnate, not only you've served more, you've been healthier, as you mentioned, how the unbalanced mind can cause disease, but then you find yourself in the spiritual realm, able to receive the help that we're going to need to go to the outposts or the colonies or the hospitals, but then recuperate faster to come back and help us here at Kardec Radio. So it's for today and for tomorrow.
That's well. Yes. So everything becomes about rebuilding our inner peace, and that can only be achieved with effort, like Emmanuel says. So I don't know if we can get to say that. So peace becomes a byproduct of calmness.
Yeah.
Right. So when you find calmness, peace will find you.
Other people who are peaceful are attracted to you. You attract more people because they feel good in your presence. And when you, of course, then you build mechanisms to help yourself shield a little bit from that, right? Because every time you interact with someone, it's a give and a take. You don't want to just give, because you have to replenish yourself. But when you have a little bit less irritation, when you have less of a bad mood, because when we are agitated, then you don't sleep well, then you don't go and wait, you're not as productive in the sleep time as we could be. Then it's a cycle, because then that affects how you wake up. Then you're in a bad mood, and he says, for the bad mood, you want to learn to smile. You want to know that the bad mood can be this, he called it a suffocating shadow. We know people who are always in a bad mood. They take the air out of the room.
Yeah.
And the question again is, where do you want to be? Do you want to be the one, like the plants, reoxygenating the room? Or you want to be the one just taking all the resources? And it comes down to knowing yourself, to mindfulness. Of course, again, friends, we're not going to do this overnight. I mean, if you do, please come back, and Luiz and I will talk to you how to do it overnight. But it's like a daily, we are very used to the dopamine hit of, I want everything now, I want my packages tomorrow, I want my my replies, my likes. It's like we have to relearn to wait a little bit. He talks in every chapter about patience, about practice, So start your daily activities thinking about God and thanking God for the possibilities of doing good. That's on the message, trimming irritation. So when you start your day and you realize you're back, because it could have been it, and you
Yeah.
thank God first. And then you practice being more patient and tolerant throughout the day, smiling, mindful of your speech. It's a lot of work, Luis, because we are just used to going about our day and fulfilling our physical needs. You know, like, oh, I wake up, I brush my teeth, I eat, I drive to work, I do work, I go to the dry cleaner, and then sleep.
It's a whole thing. Yeah.
It takes a good amount of
Yeah. It requires practice, dedication,
yeah.
devotion. Yeah.
And in the message 8, like you were saying, that peace is a byproduct of being calm. He says, peace in us does not result from external circumstances, but from our tranquility of conscience in the duty accomplished.
Comes from within.
He says, comes from service. Because if you have a reincarnatory plan, if you know you're more than the physical, we didn't come here just to enjoy ourselves. And if you fulfill your duties, then you have peace of mind. It does talk a little bit about forgiving others, to be more understanding. You know, we tend to personalize everything, think it's about us. So we go about our day about us, doing our things. And then we assume everybody around us is doing things to harm us, to help us, right? It's a very narrow frame of mind. So he says, understanding others, excusing them in the ways they go about their day. I'm paraphrasing now, I'm not reading from the message, but you know, when we see people as individual spirits who may or may not realize they're here and they will have another opportunity in the future, God willing. They have many lives, they have complex life, many lifetimes, complex lives today. Then we can figure out, oh, they didn't say that necessarily to hurt me, or they didn't cut me in traffic because they hate me. You know, like little things that we take personally that can upset our calmness.
Yeah, and we do that a lot in our stage of evolution. We do that a lot. I want to thank one of our listeners here, Abby. She says it's a wonderful conversation. Call mind, better body.
I see her every now and then. She comments on our studies, Abby, and it's a pleasure to see that you're there. And there are so many resources, Louise. Of course, we are here to be looking, into the spiritist literature. We want to bring to the folks the literature that is in English already, of all the resources. Kardec Radio 24/7 on the app, for example. Spiritist Magazine in English, other ones. But also these books are still yet to be translated. So when we do a study of anything, we are being of service.
Oh, yeah.
Even if we don't, do it perfect. Of course, it is our interpretation when we read something, we make a comment, and as you said, we read the books and we're like, oh, next week I read it again, then I find a different message.
Yeah, you pick up more of it. Yeah,
that is related to what you're going through today.
Yeah, just on a personal note, because before we wrap up, you were talking. You briefly mentioned breathing techniques, and I started a breathing technique course today, and
Wow.
it's a 4-week course, and of course it's hard. There's a learning curve to because it's a habit that you acquire, and it's got to be changed to for my own purpose, for my own benefit, and it's difficult. But I decided to do it, so that hopefully I'm on the right track here. So
You are. It's breathing is a very interesting thing, because breathing is automatic in your brain, but you can control it at the same time if you're mindful of it. Many of us don't even think about breathing.
Yeah.
And when you slow your breathing, now you're giving your brain a signal to calm down, to balance the adrenaline that we live on this agitated state. Meditation, exercise, good nutrition, sleep hygiene, social media hygiene, all of those things can help us. And I don't want to say you, the listener, us, because I'm going to include Luis and I on this one, because we say us, because we're still learning, like you guys are. Then all of that is you know, after those 4 weeks, you can try something else. So there is a little bit of strategy for all of us, from the breathing, even if you just be comfortable with the silence. So if it is a couple of seconds, we don't have to react, we don't have to reply. We can, you know, if we get upset, we can walk away from the situation, excuse ourselves politely. There's so much we can do that this book brings us the mechanism behind it. And always we're gonna suggest that folks look a little bit more into the spiritualist literature and find a technique that is available. There is apps, meditation apps you can have on your phone.
Right.
There are, for us who use like these devices that are fancy, you can have them tap you to breathe every so often. Breathing apps. So there's a lot of things that in the physical realm we have developed to help us, and we should use them all because we are spirits in the body. Can't ignore the physical. We detach from the physical, we use less, but there are certain tools, right? The technology is there to help us.
Yeah, like you said several times, one of these tools is Kardec Radio 24/7.
Yeah, because
listening to us, if you're following us here, you know, just it's there. It's a matter of us, each one of us, deciding to, because it's free will. It's free will. So each one of us going after information, going after studies and presentations like these, talks like these. That was fantastic, Sheyne. I want to
thank you
thank
so
you
much for the
for being here,
opportunity.
for accepting the invitation. And, you know, Kardec Radio is here to serve all of us. So if you're following us here live, we will be back here next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern with another topic. So thank you very much for participating with us. Be well, and we'll see you next